How much do you know about the history of the Titanic? Let me guess. You know it was a dream come true, a miracle of the planet. But soon, the dream turned into a nightmare. You are familiar with the tragic tale of its sinking on April 15, 1912, claiming over 1,500 lives in a collision with an iceberg. But wait, what if I told you there's more to this well-known story? Over the years, shocking secrets and man-made errors have been uncovered. Different artifacts holding heart-wrenching stories have also surfaced. So today, we have combined 9 discoveries from the Titanic that shocked the whole world. Let's get in. On April 15, 1912, over 2,200 people embarked on the ship, blissfully unaware of the tragedy awaiting them in the ocean's vastness. A vessel this advanced was supposed to take safety precautions as well, but that was not the case. Instead of the required 64 lifeboats, the cursed vessel carried a mere 20. The ship's owners were driven by peculiar priorities. They believed that too many lifeboats would clutter the deck, spoiling the view for the first-class passengers. Therefore, the number of lifeboats was decreased. Authorities had declared the vessel unsinkable, so safety measures were practically thrown out of the window. After the tragedy, a confidential document revealed that the ship's safety inspector had desperately pleaded to add at least 10 more lifeboats. Unfortunately, this plea fell on deaf ears as the greedy owners, obsessed with profits, chose to silence the request. Had the owners listened to the safety inspector's plea, almost 700 more lives could have been saved. The Titanic disaster serves as a haunting example of the consequences of prioritizing profit over safety. Among the Titanic's victims were not just people, but also pets. Out of the 2,200 individuals on board, there were also 9 dogs on board, including French Bulldog Emin de Picombe and Airedale Terrier Kitty. As the ship sank, chaos ensued when someone released the dogs from their cages. Unfortunately, most perished. Amidst the tragedy, there were heart-wrenching stories, like Anne Elizabeth Isham, who refused to leave without her German Shepherd. Although she didn't survive, rumors circulated that her body was found in an embrace with her dog. Nonetheless, 3 dogs did manage to survive, 2 Pomeranians and a Pekingese. John Jacob Astor IV was the richest man on the Titanic. He was a prominent American figure of the early 20th century. Born into the wealthy Astor family in New York, he inherited a substantial fortune. He engaged in diverse business ventures, including real estate and horse breeding. In April 1912, Astor and his pregnant wife boarded the ill-fated Titanic for its maiden voyage. When chaos ensued, Astor assisted his wife into a lifeboat but did not secure a place for himself. The sinking claimed Astor's life at the age of 47. His body, recovered from the sea, became a poignant symbol of the Titanic tragedy. After the Titanic disaster, efforts were made to recover bodies from the ocean, but not all could be identified. Some remains were in poor condition, making identification impossible. Unclaimed bodies, often in bad shape, were laid to rest in cemeteries near recovery sites like Halifax, Nova Scotia. Fairview Lawn Cemetery became a final resting place for many victims. Despite attempts, identification was tough due to decomposition. Clothing, personal items, and physical traits were used. Unidentified remains were buried in unmarked graves. Due to the large influx of human remains, misidentification occurred, causing families to receive or bury the wrong person. Advancements in DNA technology have brought closure to some families. In 2007, 2 victims' remains from Fairview Lawn were identified using DNA testing. Nevertheless, many Titanic victims remain unknown, a reminder of the tragic loss of life that night. Another astonishing discovery involves the engineers on board. Tragically, none of the engineers survived, not due to lifeboat space, but their unwavering commitment to duty. As passengers were getting on lifeboats, Joseph Bell and his 24-member team toiled in the blazing engine room to keep the ship afloat. The team comprised electricians, boilermakers, a plumber, and an assistant. They knew the ship's fate rested on the steam engines. Even as the Titanic split apart, the engineers stood firm. Joseph Bell's team, sacrificing their lives, provided others a fighting chance. Though their bravery often went unnoticed, their actions allowed the Titanic to send distress signals until it sank to the ocean floor. The Titanic was constructed at the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, Northern Ireland. The shipbuilding process involved numerous workers and heavy machinery, and unfortunately, accidents were not uncommon during this period. The shipbuilding industry in the early 20th century, including the construction of grand vessels like the Titanic, was inherently dangerous. Before the Titanic even set sail, 8 workers lost their lives, and 28 severe accidents occurred during its construction. Most of the 8 workers who died fell from the ship or its staging. James Dobbin's story is especially chilling. A shipwright, he was crushed to death on the day the Titanic was launched, witnessed by 10,000 people. This tragic incident happened as the ship slid into the river lagoon. Out of the men who died during construction, only 5 names are known. In 2012, a plaque was unveiled in Belfast to memorialize all 8 workers who lost their lives building the ship. Did you know that the sinking of the Titanic was witnessed by another nearby vessel? The Californian was a nearby ship to the Titanic on the night of its sinking. So, what role did the vessel play in helping the doomed ship? That is where things get controversial. On April 15, 1912, the SS Californian was cruising through the icy waters of the North Atlantic. The crew, going about their business, suddenly spotted the lights of the Titanic on the horizon. They witnessed distress rockets fired from the Titanic, a clear sign of trouble. The crew reported this to Captain Lord, but he was fast asleep in his cabin. Did Captain Lord take action? No, he dismissed them, thinking they were just company signals. Trouble began when the Carpathia arrived to rescue survivors. Only then does the Californian decide to investigate. What do they find? Wreckage, and that's it. Investigation began, and unsurprisingly, the captain gave conflicting stories. He claimed his ship was 30 miles from the Titanic, but other crew members say it was less than 20. To make matters worse, the ship's logs conveniently disappeared. Ultimately, both inquiries found Captain Lord and the Californian crew at fault. If only they had paid attention to the distress signals, more lives could have been saved. Captain Lord was held accountable by law for failing to render assistance. He was convicted, but the charge was eventually lifted. As mentioned earlier, safety precautions were thrown out of the window. It was revealed that the evacuation trail, one of the most important safety measures, was canceled on the Titanic. The ship's scheduled lifeboat drill was initially planned for April 14, 1912. However, Captain Edward J. Smith decided to cancel the drill without providing a rescheduled time. Several factors likely influenced this decision. One prevailing theory suggests that the cancellation was driven by a false confidence in the ship's unsinkability. The belief that the Titanic was invincible might have led the captain to perceive a lifeboat drill as unnecessary or potentially alarming to the passengers. Additionally, there are accounts suggesting that some passengers and crew were unaware of the importance of lifeboat drills. Some passengers treated the initial lowering of lifeboats as a mere training exercise rather than a response to an actual emergency. The absence of a properly conducted lifeboat drill likely contributed to the confusion and delays in launching lifeboats on the night of April 15th. The deck bell rung by Frederick Fleet on the Titanic's crow's nest has emerged as a poignant artifact. This bell played a crucial role in signaling the presence of obstacles ahead, particularly the iceberg that led to the ship's demise. Recovered from the wreckage in the early 1990s by RMS Titanic Inc., the bell found its final home at the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. This historical artifact holds significance as one of the few remaining pieces from the crow's nest. Beyond its historical importance, the bell symbolizes the critical role of crew members, specifically the lookouts like Frederick Fleet who diligently sounded warnings to the bridge. It serves as a tribute to the actions taken by these crew members. Apart from the dinner bell, several other shocking items have been found in the wreckage, one of which is a violin. Now, this was no ordinary violin. When the ship sank, the sound of a violin was the last music heard by the doomed passengers. The violin, owned by the band leader, Wallace Hartley, which he used to play Nearer My God to Thee as the ship sank, was sold in an auction for $1.7 million in the UK in 2013. Authorities also found a woman's 15-carat rose gold and silver bracelet with the name Amy encrusted in diamonds. The Titanic remains an enduring mystery. Every time we delve into its history, harrowing and shocking truths are revealed. Looking into the subject is like unlocking a time capsule, where each revelation adds another layer to this haunting tale. Thank you for watching. We hope you liked this video, and we'll see you next time.